Wholeness, welcome, Josh of Inner Skilled, and today I've got Massimo Rigotti with me. Massimo, what's happening today?
Oh, not much. It's a beautiful sunny day, and those are always welcome in this world because it gives you a reason to go out and enjoy nature and be at one with that which is greatest. That nature walk is a good one.
Lovely. Yeah, I was actually walking in the park earlier today. Here I'm from in London right now, or on the kind of the outskirts, and yeah, it was a lovely park. So where are you at in the world?
I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska, so
Lincoln,
right in the
Nebraska.
middle of the U.S.
But I'm originally from Missouri, so not too far away, all things considered. And
Whereabouts in
St.
Missouri?
St. Louis, Missouri area.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And yeah, the sister-in-law, I think she was it Lincoln, Nebraska? It was a Christian, a Lutheran, I think, high school. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
that she went to. It might have been in
Oh,
Lincoln, actually. Yeah. But so, and then the last guest I had was in New York, so it seems to be sunny in the U.S. Quite bright because his place was quite bright and brilliant today too. So that's good.
yes, it's also going to be quite warm. It's going to be
Oh my goodness.
about 95 or 36 degrees
Oh
Celsius today,
my.
so it's a hot one.
This is
Summer is
what
here.
I am so glad I'm in London because I could do without the Missouri heat. It's 72 here now, so it's like a spring, nice cool spring day. So
Yes, exactly.
yeah.
Yes, very nice.
All
Well,
right.
thank you
Yeah.
for having me on. I
Oh,
really
you.
appreciate it, and I hope that we can do some good and talking a little bit about what I do.
Well,
So.
that's right. And so my standard question is, who is Massimo and what kind of work does he do?
Well, I'm Massimo Rigotti, and I am a confidential recovery specialist. So, what I do is work with high performing individuals, doctors, lawyers, engineers, pharmacists, people who often find a struggle going out into public and saying, I have a problem with addiction. And it is a very great place to be because oftentimes there's nowhere else to turn for these individuals. They can't especially in small communities, they can't be seen going to an AA meeting because then everybody in town is going to know that their doctor is someone who's struggling with addiction. Well, they're probably not going to go to that doctor anymore, and then their career's over. So that's not good for anyone. You struggle in silence, and those who do, those are the people that I help. However, it has extended into a greater and greater area as time has gone on, and I've worked more and more in this realm, and I'm starting to work with in a broad classroom based type of environment those who are just looking for help with addiction. So when my second book came out, I think one of the topics you really wanted to talk today about was device addiction, which is a very interesting topic, really. So, device addiction is something I never really thought that the sober method would be used for. About 4 months after my book came out, so early 24, I received a letter from a reader saying, "Thank you so much. Your book saved my life. I finally have a good relationship with my device." Well, that was a puzzling thing for me because the last thing on my mind when I wrote my book about addiction to alcohol and drugs was an iPhone. It was just not on my mind. However, I dug in with this reader and reached out to him and got to know him and understand how he had used the practical tools within Sober to help him manage his relationship with his device. So this really is an awesome way to change up how we look at devices because we're not going to get away from them. I mean, device addiction is occurring because we require these devices just to function in society today. You can barely get through like normal interactions when you have to take the tube at someplace. You have to use your smartphone to check in. You go tickets to a concert. You everything that you are involved in now, even government is, we'll go to this website, scan this QR code. Well, how am I getting away from my device? And so I have modified this process, the sober method, so it can actually work with devices. And actually in the midst, after doing a ton of research, of writing a third book, which will specifically be about how to manage this relationship with devices. So that's what I'm up to right now.
Well, that's fascinating, and we'll get into that in just a little bit because the device, and then that's what's on the device, right? So, when you say device, it's mostly, I would imagine, all encompassing, but there is kind of a dichotomy between like the physical thing and the physicality of it, I guess, which is some people focus more on than what actually they're doing on the device. Maybe we'll get into here. So one of the things that me just being curious, maybe sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not. I just couldn't help but wonder, are you like kind of a James Bond? I mean, like you had the level of secrecy, like and you don't want to reveal too much because you don't want to, you got a client base that's, seriously confidential. I mean, there could be who knows how many high profile clients, or maybe not, that doesn't matter. But like in general, being safe, what can you say about how that works? I mean, that's really, I would imagine some people are intrigued by this level of kind of confidentiality and protection. And, have you had issues, or do you have to, have a team? What makes sense to say anything about? I don't want to start seeding too many things in here that you have to address specifically, but, what's there to say about that?
Well, I mean, there hasn't been any real like cloak and dagger type of situation.
Okay, yeah.
However, I've had to sign NDAs, and that became a thing after a couple times I decided this would just be something that would be standard practice. I would sign an NDA and put it out. Look, I'm not going to disclose this. This is, I'm not a physician, so I don't have the natural obligations that a physician might have in working with a client like this. But I have worked with some prominent people that are very wealthy, and a couple names that you would recognize. So I can't disclose that. But the exciting thing about it is that I've watched their lives actually change, and then to watch that play out in a couple cases in the public eye and see things change about that person makes it so rewarding in a way that I can't explain. And so I'm doing this work in a lot of ways in the dark. And at the same time, as more and more people I help of this caliber, they've been pushing back saying, you need to be doing this more for the public. And so that's what has started my march into, okay, I'll hang out a true website. I will start promoting my book more. I will, and do the things that are required to help more people. And of course, that's rewarding to me as well. Yet I have a particular skill set that allows me to interact with these individuals and meet them at their level. And part of the reason that I'm able to do that is because when I was an alcoholic drug addict, I was running a business and I had a lot of employees. And so I've spent my whole life being self-employed. And when you are in that environment, you quickly realize that you really don't have anyone you can talk to. Because if I were to talk to a client or a customer or, anyone within my normal realm of friends, it could potentially be the downfall of my business. And so I suffered in the dark, and I understand how that feels. When you have dozens of mouths that depend on you running your business so they can feed their families, you start internalizing that a lot. And a lot of people don't recognize that business leaders do think about those that are below, that report to them, and how their decisions do impact everything. Everybody's relying on that person at the top, and that comes with a lot of additional stress. And how do you relate to someone? So a lot of these people that I work with, they've gone to the physician. They've gone to try to solve their challenges in their own way. Some haven't, but those who have often find that they can't get that relation. They don't have someone who relates to their challenge. And that is a big part of finding success in sobriety and in that recovery is you have to really have someone who understands where you're coming from, because then you can relate to them and be like, oh, well, I've been there and this is what I was going through then. And like, you get it. And then that connection allows them to trust you more to then, okay, I'll try what you're talking about because you've been there.
Exactly. And that's, they were, from my understanding, when I hung out in some of these crowds, or but maybe not on the same levels, is that they don't have any respect for anybody that hasn't really gone through. You might as well just be in school again. Shooting spitwads at the teacher or something. They don't really care. It's just like, come on, you're kidding me. You just gone to school. You're reading out of a book. Come on. That's kind of the sentiment that, and there's something to be said for that. Sure. Yes, there's some of us who are deeply empathic and are very wise and don't have to go through the same things other people do, but can like read people like a book, see right through them. But those people are quite rare. And still, if the other person's not at the level to respect that kind of wisdom and in empathy, then it's not going to really matter either. So you just, like you said, you have to know, like a comrade in arms kind of thing, So I guess I guess the only other thing I'm curious about is, before we start getting into this, is it's all remote work then, or like you're going to see clients in person, or can you say that even, or
I have done some in person, yes,
okay.
but for the most part it's remote.
I see.
And being available at some of the most unusual hours you can imagine.
I guess if they have the money and they're paying you, then they can expect things like that, right? So
yes, we need to have this meeting at 3 a.m. tomorrow. Okay. If that's when you need it to be, that's when it'll be.
You're paying me. Okay, so like I guess to kind of get a background here, how would you say this relates to the standard protocol of like AA, NA, I don't know, maybe some Christian and religious things, and then you'll have to go into, of course, what the sober method is and how you came about it, and how it would stack up with these other things. Because I hear some people say that some of these other programs, they kind of churn people in and out, because it's not good business practice to kind of cure everybody. Like they say, some healers, if they cured everybody, they'd be out of business. I'm not necessarily accusing these, because I've heard a lot of good experiences people have, but some of these, they almost turn like into I shouldn't say a cult, I shouldn't say that, but some people are die hard, like they and lifestyle, and then getting addicted, going into rehab, and then getting cycled through, washed through here, and doing it many, many times and things like this. So I think maybe you might, if you want to address that as well.
Absolutely. That was a great tee up there. Thank you. Well, this certainly was designed to be as far away from the traditional path as possible, because the normal traditional path wasn't working for me. So I found sobriety, and I was going to AA and NA, but I was just kind of lost. Is this it? I don't feel okay with myself yet. Sure, I'm sober, but if this is it, I may as well drink. I may as well start doing drugs again. It just was not there. And that felt like it was the wrong thing to do, because becoming sober was tough. I mean, that was really, really hard. I had spent 20 years of my life being a hard drinker and drug user. So that, being able to come out of that and have the clarity of mind, I didn't want to go back into that fog again. And so I took a look around, and what did I like about the 12-step programs? What did I like about rehab? And what did I think was missing? And I formulated my own process. And as crazy as it sounds, I was doing some consulting in manufacturing at the time, and I got the crazy idea that I could use the Deming cycle for manufacturing, and I could continuously improve my mind. So if I were to look at something within my mind and say, this needs to be corrected, and then look and observe how that was playing out in my life and what that behavior looked like, and then change that, test it by executing a new plan or a new behavior. And then if it worked, I would consider that to be restored. And then I would look back at another thing, and then just slowly just go through a cycle over and over and over again. The other thing that so many around me would say is that they did not like that there was so much religious overtone in the programs they were in. And this made it a large challenge for many in a society that has moved further away from these religious undertones that are especially in AA, which came about almost 100 years now. So over time, people like will go in and like, that just isn't for me. I like it except this. Well, you have to really want to remain sober, and you have to want to go to these meetings. You have to want to improve yourself. And if one thing, look, you give one little reason for me not to do something when I'm just coming out of the darkness of addiction, I'm going to go right back into addiction because it's a lot easier. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people. And so they get into that churn cycle, as you talked about. They can pull themselves out, but then the challenge of remaining in, they haven't found the right goal to keep them going continuously and to be able to look back and say, oh, I improved this. Oh, I improved this. Whereas the goal within the 12-step programs tends to be, don't drink, don't use drugs. That's not a good reason to remain sober. And then you always spend all of your time in meetings looking at the past. You stand up with this self-affirming attitude of, hi, I'm Massimo, and I'm an alcoholic. Well, if I say that every day, guess what? I'm going to be an alcoholic, because that's self-affirmation. What you say and what you is your brain just telling you that's what you're going to become. Everywhere else in mental health, we tell everyone positive affirmation. Say what you're going to be. Say what you want to become. Yet, for some reason over here, we're doing things in some archaic way where we talk about how we are something we aren't. And so that was another big thing that had to change. So never in sober method do we say that. Once you're sober, you're sober. Say that you're sober. And if somebody asks about your past, sure, you could share as much or as little as you want. You don't have to tell anybody about what you were yesterday. If you're sober now and 5 years from now, nobody says that you have to tell them that you used to be this horrible drunk that struggled with every moment of their day because you thought about drinking. I think it's counterproductive to your health and your mindset holistically, that in having that inner peace to know that you're okay and that you're on a path that is good for you, your body, your mind, your soul. And that's why it's so important. So back to how this came about then, is that I thought Stoicism would be a good basis, because if you look at Stoic philosophy, it is fundamentally tied into so many other philosophical belief systems and even religion in some level, if you're willing to dive deep enough into it. In seeing that, I believe that it was that baseline that would allow enough acceptance of everyone to say, okay, I can get behind Stoic belief. And so far, I found that to be true. Whether it's somebody has no religion or to somebody who's very religious of any of the major religions, it hasn't been a challenge to to get over that hump. That's fantastic. And so you start with Stoicism, you then observe your behavior, you map out new behavior in the behavior step. You move into step E, which is execute, where you're testing. If everything goes right, you move on. But if it doesn't, guess what? You go right back to observe what went wrong. You're diagnosing yourself. And this is like, okay, everything went right, but then this went haywire, and I need to figure that out. Okay, so you figure out what went wrong. You remap something, and then you test it again. And once it works, and you're in that restoration step, this is that traditional in the 12-step programs where you're looking for forgiveness. Where did this particular thing I just fixed about myself impact somebody else in my life? And going back and discussing and seeking out that forgiveness from someone, or at least acknowledging that you did something wrong with somebody else. Forgiveness is not about reconciliation. It's about taking and releasing that from yourself. Not everyone is going to say, you're okay, that's fine. I mean, that's probably a 50-50 shot, right? But at the end of the day, you have released it yourself. You have done everything that you possibly could. And if they decide they want to forgive you, that's on them. Let them carry that weight and that stress the rest of their life. You've fixed yourself. You know you won't make those mistakes again. And then you just go back to the beginning and you work on something else. It's a continuous process. I'm on my, let's see here, 139th cycle at this moment of my own process.
Well, cool. Congratulations. Yeah, I have. Of course, I dabbled in this stuff in college, and when I got into meditation, though, it just I went from being able to be out all night drinking, and that was part of company culture, to gradually less and less, where it got to be like one beer. I was getting hung over from one beer, and I'm like, what is the point of even that? Yeah, it was a really dramatic thing that I haven't heard too many people but I was really gung ho, and like I've had a 2 hour meditation practice every day since May 2012 and haven't missed a day. It really turned my life around so much. So the Stoicism is great. It aligns with kind of Buddhist teachings too. I would just say minus the heart. But we
Yes.
can always put the heart into Stoicism too, or add a heart practices to Stoicism too. But yeah, it's so practical, straightforward, and powerful. From what little I know about it, and practical, very
Yeah.
practical as well. So when we look at something else. Um, it, so I guess whatever I was trying to think of, it will come back to me if it needs to be. But let's take this now and go into how this could apply to devices now, because we have these generations. And I ran with street people for a while. I'd run in all kinds of different circles, and I guess there's many different reasons for many different addictions, and some of them we kind of maybe fool ourselves with. Oh, I can't speak for everybody, but maybe paint a different light on it. There's so many different ways addicts talk to, because I've hung around addicts too, and it's just a thing. And I have addictive tendencies myself. I would say. When it comes to our devices, though, now I would say the big thing for some people, and I have gotten less on social media, but for a while I was really ramped up into it, and they admit this, that it's designed on purpose to be addictive. The algorithms like that, and yet the notion of constantly being available, making ourselves available, and have to have this kind of expectation that I will reply right away to whoever texts me. And some people even have the notifications on. They're just constantly getting notifications. That's an easier one to do, is turning a lot of that off. So it's kind of out of the gate, it's kind of rigged against us. And like you're saying, it's all pervasive in society already, and it's way more radical. I mean, it's not even radical. I mean, some people, very few people that I know, can get away with not doing it. And they have like surrogates for people to do it for them if they need to, right? Which is not really responsible either. So yeah, so it's a different beast than I think the traditional. I mean, there's a lot of similarities, but it is a little bit different. I mean, even just the tension in my body from interacting with the computer too much. This isn't too bad, because this is kind of like a simulation of what would be like in real life. I'm not constantly interacting with my machine. My machine's not demanding me move things around and go here and fragment my consciousness here, and distract me with this, and I set out to do this, but all of a sudden now I find myself doing that, and I forgot what I was set out to do. Everybody can relate to that one too. And then before I know it, my body's tensed up. I'm delaying going to the bathroom because I just want to finish this one thing. And so yeah, I'm just illustrating just a few of these little things that we're all familiar with these days. So yeah, to explain this, and how your method can help with this.
I think the first thing that we have to ask ourselves is who works for whom? And you have to remind yourself that the device works for you. It's not the other way around. Yet we've allowed ourselves to, like, basically, whatever I get pinged or notified or everything, you immediately pick up your device and you do what it tells you to do. So the device is running your life. It's not the other way around. So understanding that out of the gate is the first thing that I try to get through. And okay, do you understand the concept that this device is, you control this device? It's not the device controlling you.
Well, it's confusing too, because we don't see that a lot of times. We just see, oh, that's someone out there that I know that's wanting my attention now, and that wants me to respond to them. We forget that it's not the same thing as being face to face with someone. At least I do, anyway. I miss the medium or the method a lot of times. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
varying
absolutely.
degrees too, though,
Yeah.
because there's some strangers that then it really applies, but some people that are really, some people that we're really in contact with, I sometimes forget it's a device that I'm talking through them. You know what I mean? So yeah, but it is a physical thing, at least now, until maybe some people get chips implanted in them. Ugh, but yeah, exactly right. So okay, continue, please.
That if we get chips implanted and we start doing that, that's only going to take it and make it even worse, I would think, because there would be no escape whatsoever. So the first step after that is you have to acknowledge that this is an integral part of modern life, as you said and you pointed out, and that the overuse can harm your productivity, but underuse you won't be productive enough, and overuse could harm your relationships, but also underuse could harm your relationships. So there's a fine line, and you pointed something out that is very, very true. And you have to understand in my own management of my device, I classify, all of my contacts on what level of access they have to me. So whether or not I get a notification or not. So because most of my notifications are turned off, I grab my phone when I need or have time to use my phone. Otherwise, it might sit over, in arm's reach for hours, and I won't look at it, I won't touch it, anything. And then I will open it up and do something I need to do, and I set aside specific time during the day where, and it's only 30 minutes. I got to get a bunch in because I only have 30 minutes where it's a free for all, and I get to do anything I want on my phone for 30 minutes. And that time period is at night. It's between 8 and 8:30 p.m. And that's when I can do anything I want to. So if and this is a challenge too, because I'm active on social media for business related activity. And so that gets managed in timed and scheduled things. And then I have a set time during the day, and it's during my lunch break that I give myself, where I have 15 minutes where I will respond to anything on social media, respond to any comments, like different things that people have sent me, etc. So at least it looks like I'm engaged still, but I also have that hard cutoff that says, okay, we're going to put this back down. So the notifications piece, as you pointed out, this is kind of your starting point. Do you really need a notification every time that a friend likes a picture on Instagram or Facebook, or if every time someone likes your tweet on X? No, you don't. It's a distraction. So if you remove those, that that initial first step of just notifications will change your mindset in your relationship with your phone. But then you have to be careful. As I said, relationships are a tricky one here, because I had an instance just a few weeks ago where I had accidentally classified a family member into a non-family member. And so I didn't get notification that they called me, and they had been calling me to try to get hold of, and it was actually something that was important, but my phone wasn't ringing because I basically just had them ignored. And so they reached a point after 3 or 4 hours where they ended up calling my mom to see if I was okay. And then my mom calls me, and I answered, and she's like, "Oh, so glad you're alive." I was like, I can't disappear for 3 hours. It's
No,
so
no, it
interesting.
is. It is. This is the real thing. Some people jump to conclude or catastrophize immediately now so
Yes.
fast that they jump to the fact that you're dead because you don't immediately reply to their.
Yes.
There's a misunderstanding, but no, this is a real thing I've experienced. I mean, it's. I think it's familiar amongst moms because moms they that's moms, but a lot of people can find themselves just even thinking that, and it's like, oh, why am I thinking that? So yeah, it's a real thing. Yeah, this is wild. Just think in the 90s when I was coming up, nobody even had a cell phone. It was
No.
a huge deal when somebody had a pager. Then we wouldn't have to drive around town looking for each other because you could go to a payphone. But and then even before that, people had to wait weeks for a letter
Yes.
to cross the ocean. And now people are jumping to the conclusion, if they don't immediately get a response, oh, they must be dead. This
Yes.
is how far we've come. Just to paint it in a kind of humorous light, but yeah, it's real.
It is. And, that's, you bring up that good point, is that I grew up in a time period, I came up in the 80s. And so there wasn't even voicemail. I mean, you couldn't leave I remember when we got our first like cassette recorded, voicemail, and it was like the biggest thing ever.
Answering machine. They used
answering
to call
machine.
answering
Yeah.
machines. I even forgot the name of it.
Yes. See, I called it voicemail, and it's answering machine. See, that tells you how like
the memory hole. The
memory hole of the
yeah.
whole thing, right? And so that was like just no big deal. It wasn't unusual that the phone would ring like 20 times and no one would answer. You'd hang up and like, I guess I'll try them later. Now it's, well, I mean, they didn't answer my phone call. I'll text them. If they don't answer within 5 minutes, then I'm going to have to call his mom and see if he's okay. I mean, seriously, that's what this person did.
People, or they might even call the police or something.
Yes!
Or, so walk by your house. It's pretty wild. And I'm guilty of this too, because I have a friend who changed his number I didn't even know. I was trying to get a hold of whoever I could through there, but I lost track. So I went to their house. I went up and knocked on the door like old school fashion.
Yeah.
And I was relieved to find that his wife answered the door. But yeah, I just changed his number. And here I was jumping to conclusions, So ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, great times. So the next thing is that once you kind of get that notification thing, this is moving into the observe step as a sober method to try to keep it in line, is that you want to recognize the patterns and triggers that are causing you to go for your phone. Now, one helpful thing, well, there's a couple, but I think both Apple and Google have something. I think Apple's is called screen time and Google's is, I don't remember what it's called, like digital management, or I can't remember exactly what it's called. You can tell I'm an iPhone user. Anyway. So
same, yeah. Screen time, yeah.
Yeah, screen time. So screen time will kind of tell you what apps you're going into on a regular basis and where you're spending your time. So go old school here. Go to journal. This is the same type of thing that we do in the observe step when it's, alcohol and drugs. Write down what is causing you to want to reach for that phone. Why am I suddenly wanting to look at my Facebook? Why do I suddenly, and write it down? And then as you review your journal, you can begin to see what was happening, before that. What was happening in the moment? I'm bored. I want to check my Facebook. Oh, okay. And then like later that day, I'm bored. Want to check Instagram. I'm bored. Want to go on X. Okay. You get bored a lot. Why are you getting bored? And so then you can actually analyze what's going on, or it could be stress. A lot of people, I would say that's probably the secondary largest reason that people go to their phone. They don't want to deal with the situation. They want to procrastinate something that needs to get done. That stress gets them going, and they're like, oh, I'll just dive into this memory hole on Instagram for the next 25 minutes or TikTok or whatever it is, right?
FOMO is another big one too. I'm too old to say FOMO, but fear of missing out, because yes. Especially I have to know every single thing that's happening. I'm exaggerating here, of course, but I have to be informed. I have to stay up on this, whatever. For me, I know it's making a bunch of kind of a Capricorn here, a bunch of to-do lists. I just offload it on my to-do list, and I this humongous thing, and when I'm trying to go through it, then I get exhausted. Yeah, I get a few things crossed off. It's just like, okay, I need to do this different. I need to go through and just eliminate a lot of this stuff and just say, okay, I'm just not going to know about that, or I'm just not going to look into that, or this, that, because I'm a big researcher and like to, so that can eat up a lot of time too. But the motivational factor is really important. Sure. One thing.
Yeah. The one thing that I might recommend that you do when you just said that is take your to-do list and pick one research item and leave it on there until you've researched it. And then have your like a side list over here that has like, one day when I have time, I am also interested in these things. And then so the next time you're like, ooh, I'm interested in something, pull out the side list and take that item from the list. I recommend people do this a lot. So it's like, and it does work, because otherwise you'll overwhelm yourself with things that you want to do when you have time. And you'll just look at it, the list gets longer and longer. I'm like, I'm never going to get any of this done. And it's defeating.
Exactly. In my YouTube watch later playlist there's no way, it's ridiculous that I have, but that's a good idea. So to just go through and sort them out and classify, okay, just have one folder for, okay, research topics. And then that's a great idea. Thank you for that.
You bet.
All right. Yeah.
So as you move out, you've got this journal now. You understand where your triggers are coming from. So now let's look at how we could modify your behavior. How can we modify your habits a little bit? Can you create a tech-free zone where you don't bring your phone and anywhere near you, or maybe you go and you do an activity but you leave your phone at home? I know some people, like I've actually witnessed this, get physically shake when they can't hold their phone for every few
They
minutes.
freak out. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that shows you that they truly are addictive. I have actually seen the mock phones that some people carry around to try to break them. It's not a phone, but it's the size like a phone, so they can carry it, and they don't freak out that they don't have that device.
Are you kidding me? Wow, I
No,
didn't know
I'm
that
not.
was a real thing. Wow.
Yeah, it is. And so and that's sad. That tells you how addictive it can become, especially if you have an addictive personality. And I think that we all have an addictive tendencies to, it's just where that presents itself. And so we always have to be mindful of where addiction may present itself for you. It's going to be somewhere in your life because something is going to draw that dopamine rush that you crave. It's going to come from someplace. And it's always having that healthy balance with it.
Now, do you think the roots of addiction are just as simple as that, chemical dopamine rushes, and then I guess is there the better alternatives to getting that kind of I guess chemical satisfaction? I don't know how we would put it. I mean, are there any other alternatives to this too? Yeah, in general, I don't know if that's really a right way to frame it or whatever, but. Because usually you tell people, or not you, but I mean, like, if you have a bad habit, you replace it with a healthier habit, right? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, anything to say on that?
Well, all you're doing in that case, and you're right, that's been the strategy all along. You take the bad habit, you replace it with a good habit, and then you make your life better. I have looked at this a little bit differently. I think that it's a mastery of one's mind. I believe that the mind has the ability to find its balance, and if you work hard enough on yourself to find that true zen within yourself, and I've done this through Stoicism, and you have your meditation that you go through, and that is you seeking out some of the same things that I'm seeking out, and you're finding that balance within so that the spikes are not as great. And I think that that's really what it is at the end of the day. The mastery of one's mind is understanding when and when not to release the hounds, so to speak. Stoicism, a lot of people, say, oh, you're just going to be like a rock. You have no emotion, you have no feeling. And I totally disagree with that. I think that I feel more now that I've gone through so many years of Stoic work. It's just that it's measured. I know that if somebody screams in my face, it's not worth my time to get upset with them because they're going through something. And I understand that there's nothing that I can do to make them stop screaming. So I should just let them scream at me. Of course, they scream louder when you don't react. But that sometimes that I think that really levels it out. And I have a unique perspective in this as well because I'm bipolar. And I'm no longer on any medication for it. I am completely manage my bipolar now just from mind mastery. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not encouraging anyone to do this. And it took years to achieve that point. That's why I'm a firm believer that I think that the mind is really powerful enough to release the chemicals it needs to be level.
Well, it really is. Everything starts in the mind. I mean, there's a famous line in the Dhammapada, the first half line of two lines is, all phenomena is preceded by mind, led by mind, and made by mind. It all starts there. And so, like, if you want to go to the source, that's where it is. And once that's in order, everything else is just kind of a trickle down reflection from what happens in the mind first. Yeah. So total agreement with that. Yeah. Well, is there anything else we left out here? I mean, I'm implementing a bunch of those in devices. I think the very first thing you mentioned is really kind of paramount and key. It's kind of ideological too, that the device is not in control of me. I'm in control of the device. The device is an extension and implement, not I'm serving the device. And yeah, so that's a huge one right out of the gate, just to kind of put the whole thing in perspective and frame the whole thing. And it's not so much literal, but it's this kind of sense. Oh, now it's coming back to me. Now, the affirmations, what I usually find with these affirmations is, what would you say this? Because I have an alternative to affirmations, because to me, I get it. It's helpful, and it's priming the mind and setting the heart in place where we want to be. At the same time, sometimes it's not authentic. It's basically a lie. So the alternative to that, because then our BS detector can come on, and some people can't even get to affirmations, which I think it could be good though, because their BS detector saying, no, I'm not. No, that's not. That's bull. No, I'm not like that. But no, that's the thing. I like aspirations, because an aspiration, it's not a lofty goal that I could never reach. It has to be, implemented with direct action and commitment and a resolve, and to let go of what and to put active effort into it and go towards the aspiration. Because when I said an aspiration, yes, I'm not there, but I'm not kidding myself where I'm not. But I'm saying this is possible. This is where I want to go. I'm going to pull out all the stops to make that happen. What do I need to do to get there? I need to get fired up, or have the positive enthusiasm and the priming that an affirmation gives me. But so that's my one qualm with affirmations, and replacing them with aspirations in a way. But yeah.
No, I totally agree with you, and they're like steps within observe and behavior in the sober method and execute. OBE is like the heart of the program, and this includes eating better, like as natural as possible, no processed food. I have eliminated 95% of processed food out of my diet, and I feel incredibly better since I've done that. And exercise is also a component. And the other thing that is included in here is that we set up a plan that goes out in what's your 1 year plan broken down by months, then your 3 year, your 5 year. And I even encourage a 10-year plan. A lot of people are like, why would you think about what's going on in 10 years? Well, if you know at least one thing you're trying to achieve in 10 years, you're going to keep your focus on that, and you're going to keep moving towards it. And so those aspirations, as you point out, are actually much more powerful than saying that you're sober. That they are, because they will drive you to continue to improve, so that you do aspire to achieve the things that you want to achieve. So I totally agree with you.
Well, brilliant. Massimo, thanks for coming on here, and I enjoyed talking with you, and learned what I wanted to learn about this, and I appreciate that. So why don't you tell people how they can get in touch with you, either hiring you, your book, any other projects you have going, anything else you want to draw people's attention to, and then what kind of message would you like to leave the listeners and viewers with?
Well, thank you, Josh, so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it. And, doing so many podcast interviews, it's always great when a host will bring up new questions and new quandaries and have me go back to the drawing board. And you did that a couple times today, and I look forward to exploring those thoughts myself after we talk. So anyone can find me, sobermethod.com. I'm on all socials, literally all socials, at Sober Method. Also have a Reddit community, Sober Method, that is out there. I post and interact with anybody on all platforms. I really make a point to make sure that I'm out there working with everybody that is reaching out to me. My books are available on Amazon. Flavors of Confidence is my first book. It's my memoir. It's all about my background, my story, and how I ended up doing what I do. And then Sober Method, also available there. Links to those books also on my website, sobermethod.com. And I just want to leave everyone today with something that I want you to reflect on for a moment. And that is that absolutely anything is possible if you look within yourself and decide that you want to do it. It doesn't matter if you're a sober person already. This is a message to literally everyone. Find what you want to achieve in life and put yourself behind it and go out there and get it done, because it truly, that power is within each of us to make it happen. And I encourage you all to take a risk on yourself and do just that. Make it happen.
Well, beautiful. It's such an empowering method. And with that, may all beings everywhere come to know their true power and well-being and success. Thanks everyone for joining. Bye. Listening.